Hey guys, it's your favorite Dinobot here, and welcome to a new Transformers series. I am trying out other franchises, obviously with the Bayverse ones being shorter, and it's very possible I may do more Transformers Prime one because again, you guys seem to like that. So yeah, I'll be brainstorming that one, but yeah, let's actually try this one out and see how this one goes. What if the Dinobots were in Transformers Cybertron? Now, just for a little heads up, the Dinobots actually did exist in the Transformers Cybertron continuity. However, they were limited, kind of like Transformers Animated, where it was just Grimlock and Swoop. Now, believe it or not, I do think that would be a very interesting thing to kind of have that continue over. And I do feel like that it should be kind of maybe keep it like that because of continuity's sake, but we're gonna pull a 180 and then pull a Transformers animated. So instead of just Grimlock and Swoop, it'll be Grimlock, Swoop, and Slug for the time being, where Snarl and Sludge will be in its later on. I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's begin. Our story begins in the very first episode, the events of the Fallen, with the Autobots all getting ready to evacuate their planet of Cybertron, with Optimus talking to his lieutenants, Grimlock and Jetfire. Now, if you guys are wondering how I am portraying Grimlock in this one, he does have his own Energon, state and stuff, but he always worked closely with Optimus and Jetfire. So let's just say he's kind of more resemblance toward his Fallen Cybertron counterparts, along with Slug and Swoop, so we can just kind of work with it, right? So, with that being said, he does address his two lieutenants, and both of them decide that it is best that they do evacuate the planet. However, one thing happens just like in the original. Good old Vector Prime, Dr. Time himself, the god of time himself, just pretty much, appears and everything and says that there is a way to save their universe, and that is with the Omega Keys. However, just before he gives them the map, the Decepticons, Thundercracker, Starscream, and Megatron attack. Optimus and Grimlock both stay behind to fight against Megatron, while the other Autobots go ahead and go toe-to-toe with Starscream, with Grimlock dispatching his Dinobots to aid them as they're going to need their muscle. So, the fight between Megatron actually goes as follows. Optimus in his base form clashes with Megatron again in a, clash of fists and loses. However, when Grimlock steps in, Grimlock overpowers Megatron, showing the clear power dynamic between the two, with Megatron, have to resort to his lightning blast almost immediately. However, Grimlock puts up his Energon shield, powers through it, and tackles Megatron into the wall, and, well, the two get into an own scuffle, where Optimus is actually checked on by Vector Prime, saying that I think it is time for them to get out of here. However, Megatron proves to be a little more powerful than expected, with the fact that, well, it's still a much more powerful Megatron. However, the Autobots do manage to, well, escape, just like in the original, and this is due to Vector Prime's ability, the Cyber Planet Keys. And when Vector Prime does this, he actually manages to, well, get all the Autobots out of there, and they do make their way towards Earth. Now, the Autobots themselves here are just slightly different in this timeline, where we do have the following. We have Optimus Prime, Vector Prime, Grimlock, Jetfire, Hotshot, Overhaul, Landmine, Scattershot, Red Alert, and then there's Jolt, Six Speed, and Reaver, with the Decepticons being Starscream, Thundercracker, and Megatron. Now, on Earth, they still meet their regular humans. They meet Cody, they meet Lori, and Bud, just like in the original, and they all get along just as well, with Bud actually being infatuated, if straight up fanboyish, over the Dinobots, talking about how cool they are, how they turn into giant, metal dinosaurs and stuff. However, the Autobots still have to go to Atlantis and try to figure out the rest of the entire, thing with the Cyber Planet Keys and retrieve the Omega Lock. So that still goes the same. And, well, they do manage to do it, and they manage to beat the Decepticons. Now, the episode Haven, really nothing takes place. As a matter of fact, along with the Dinobots, the Autobots have a much easier time fending off Megatron, Starscream, and Thundercracker. However, this is where something different happens. This is where Megatron actually is able to capture one of the Autobots, that being Overhaul and actually just, well, takes him away. Now, the next episode is Hidden, with the Autobots now worried that, well, Megatron has Overhaul and he doesn't know what he's going to do to him. The Autobots do have to take time out of their way or out of their day to pretty much find out where Megatron is hitting, well, pretty much, hiding Overhaul and what's he doing to him. Now, the episode does still have its merits with them being able to, well, having to discover that being robots in disguise is pretty hard, but also the sheer fact that you have 3 dinosaurs. Yeah, so, there's that. And, that it doesn't come easy, especially with the likes of, the whole cyber planet keys and all that stuff happening. And, well, not everything does work out at the end of the day, as Optimus does manage to unlock his cyber key power. And, well, it actually does work out in the end with Optimus unlocking his cyber key power and pretty much just doing everything as normal. However, this episode ends off differently, where we actually see that Megatron has fully corrupted, has fully corrupted Overhaul here and turned him to the side of the Decepticons. Now, let's actually go over what happens on Velocitron. Most of the things do happen to say. Megatron does recruit, ransack, and crumple zone and promising them everything. However, when the Autobots do go to disperse and separate, this is where everyone obviously goes to, different planets. Hotshot and Red Alert still go to Velocitron, like in the original, and those events are still playing out. Then we have the events of Overhaul that normally were basically where he would go to Jungle Planet, but instead of Overhaul, we have the fact that Grimlock, Slug, and Swoop are the ones to go in this timeline. So they're the ones that have to go to the Jungle Planet and pretty much discover everything. Now, this means that instead of having the episode Detour focus on Overhaul, it focuses on Grimlock, where he pretty much comes to the planet, but this episode does take place a little bit differently. You see, with the Grimlock already having that mentality of his father Cybertron counterpart, he's obviously confident and obviously willing to just kind of go through everything that's going on. And this is where we actually see something a little bit different than the original, where Grimlock actually does challenge Scourge for the power of the Cyber Planet Key. And, well, Grimlock and Scourge do get into a heated duel. And this is where we actually see Grimlock utilizing his skill and combat prowess to actually overpower Scourge. But again, Scourge still has the strength to combat him. And it comes down to, well, a well-timed blow by Megatron. Yeah, while Megatron, would be there just like in the original, some things still happen the same, where he just witnesses the fight between them, but seeing Scourge is on the losing end, he kind of just, slides a bolt of lightning into one of Grimlock's legs, and while, Scourge doesn't notice it, Grimlock is obviously on one knee, and now has to bear down the full weight of Scourge pretty much just coming on top of him. And this is where they also see that Overhaul is with Megatron and has now become Nemesis Breaker, responding to the power of the Cyber Planet Key, but in a more, I guess you could say, negative fashion. And, well, believe it or not, this does mean the group has to temporarily retreat, and they do rescue Snarl. Now, Snarl is a bit different here and does resemble his more traditional counterpart. Now, while I do love Wolf Snarl, it's just, for the sake of story purposes. And then we also have them go to Backstop. Now, Backstop is with one of his more latest students as well, that being Sludge. And this is where we have the entire Dinobots simply form, as Backstop simply explains the origin of Scourge, explaining how he was once a benevolent and noble warrior, but it seems like all the wars and all the atrocities eventually changed his heart. To which this is where, Sludge simply asks Grimlock, what makes you so different? And to which Swoop and Slug both get ready to defend him, but Grimlock simply holds up his hand, telling them to, not defend him. And Grimlock simply states why he's different. He's fought wars before, countless, led a few troopers through them himself. But you know what's the funny part about it is? He never let it corrupt him. He never let it drive him to the point where he would become encased in darkness. He would never become something he would have never been before. And so this is where everything kind of just goes kind of like canon, except a little differently in my opinion. Where Optimus does arrive, he's kind of left for words or less starstruck when he sees that Grimlock has not only formed his own team, but informs him that, well, Overhaul, they found him, but unfortunately he's betrayed them. He's along with the Decepticons, and unfortunately, he's he doesn't know what to do at this moment. Now, keep in mind here, this does mean everything changes vastly differently. As when Megatron arrives with Scourge, Underbite, Pterosaur, and all that, he also arrives with Leo Breaker, a new, or I should say, Nemesis Breaker, if you will. And this is where Megatron shows that he has the ability to power link, and this gives him the ability of the Dark Claw mode. And well, while it is a little bit earlier than the original, keep in mind this is a consenting, or at least a corrupted version of Leo Breaker as Nemesis Breaker. And while Optimus does plead to him, Megatron says it falls on deaf ears, as he used the dark power that Unicron gave him to corrupt his very spark and soul. And so, Optimus does have to face off against Megatron with this Dark Claw mode. However, Vector Prime decides to throw Optimus a bone, if you will, and tells him to take this, and throws his sword, racing at Optimus Prime. And Optimus, now wielding this sword, is now able to combat Megatron's Dark Claw mode. Now you might say, Legendary, wait. Wouldn't that just overpower Dark Claw mode? I understand. But here's the thing. This is odd. It's about power levels at this point. Optimus and Megatron's power levels at this point, they are at their weakest. Not at their strongest, at their weakest. So giving Optimus the sword early, I don't think it would elevate his power level to the same degree as it would in the final episode of the last season. And so this is where we also get, Optimus fighting against Megatron, racing versus the full power of Dark Claw mode. And then we also get another rematch between Grimlock and Scourge. However, this time, they're in their beast forms. To which this is where Grimlock simply states, no one's going to be here to save you this time. To which Scourge says, ha! As if you knew. Wait a minute. What do you mean, save me? To which Grimlock circles him in his Tyrannosaurus form. You didn't notice? Huh. Guess you're not as the keen warrior as Backside made you out to be. And this is where Scourge lunges at him. However, Grimlock simply sidesteps, bites him on the neck, and simply, I would probably say, just throws him like how Terry threw the whole Torosaurus, just grabs him by the neck and just like circle throws him into the side of the cliff that they're fighting at. And this is where the two of them begin to fight back and forth in their beast forms. This is where we also see Snarl, Sludge, Slug, and Swoop all combating against Scourge's forces and Megatron's as well, with all of them providing their own support for Optimus as well. However, the fight takes a turn where Scourge unlocks his Cyber Planet key and utilizes his Fire Breath to overpower Grimlock's standard Fire Breath. However, just like in the original, except with Grimlock instead of Leo Breaker, the Cyber Planet key resonates with him. And, well, Grimlock's firepower begins to evolve. a sort of black hole or black sun simply forms as the fire begins to not only absorb Scourge's flame, but begins to transform Grimlock's flame. And then it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until it unleashes everything it has at Scourge, consuming him in this all-consuming supernova and then blowing up like a whole nuclear bomb. Everyone is shocked. Everyone stops fighting as they witness Grimlock utilizing his new ability or his new cyber planet key, Fire Scorcher. To which Slug looks at Swoop and says, "Did you see that?" To which Swoop says, "How could he not? It was the biggest Big Bang he's ever seen before." And to which Snarl and Sludge both look at each other and simply state, "Is he always that powerful?" To which Slug says, "Well, yeah, but this is new. And this is where Jetfire says, terrifyingly strong. But that is something we're definitely going to need." And this is where Scourge gets up and calls Grimlock a worthy adversary and tells him he'll be waiting for him for their duel at the temple. And well, everything on Velocitron, I would probably say, goes a lot smoother, with Hotshot still being a lot more motivated than the original. Now, this is where we also go into the episode Sand. Now, while Hotshot is getting ready for, obviously, his final leg of the race and stuff, and still driving around with the glorious and luxurious override, we still have to deal with one thing: Grimlock's duel against Scourge. And this is where we actually see Optimus negotiating or trying to talk Grimlock out of it, saying that they should be a bit more diplomatic than this. They should be able to resolve this. And keep in mind, this is also where Sideways makes his way to the Decepticons. Now, considering the sheer fact that Sideways normally isn't around the Decepticons as often, I would actually say in this timeline, Sideways actually joins them, giving them a much more or another formidable fighter. And this means that he and Starscream actually do enact their plan earlier, with Starscream and Sideways both pretty much going to distract and kind of delay the Autobots from being able to be there. However, with having 5 Dinobots, Jetfire, and Optimus, along with Vector Prime and Backstop, they're able to beat the Decepticons a lot more quickly. And this kind of means that Starscream was, I would probably say, a little bit foolish to kind of do this. But again, he had a goal, and he managed to accomplish that goal. Now, meanwhile, back on Velocitron, we would actually skip ahead to the episode of Champion, where Hotshot and Override go for the final stage of the Planet Cup, and boom, Hotshot wins it. Just like in the original, the GOAT speeds on through with his last-minute Cyber Planet key. However, we do go through the other episode where Ice, I'm just going to say that happens the same. But now we have to go into the episode Honor. And this changes entirely. Forget anything original about this. This is where everything on Jungle Planet is about to end, okay? So, how does this go from here on out? Grimlock manages to finally get everything ready. He's ready to challenge Scourge. He's ready to get everything done. And this is actually where I would say Hotshot, Red Alert, and Override, along with Cody, all appear. They all appear through the portal and stuff, the space bridge and stuff like that. And this is where Override meets Grimlock for the first time. And this is where they all kind of, introduce Override to everybody, and everyone kind of gets along and everything here. And this is where Override simply states, "So you're the big guy that Hotshot's been bragging about being this whole hot top warrior and stuff like that." To which Grimlock looks at Hotshot and just looks at him like, "You are bragging?" To which he says, "Yeah, you are kind of one of the coolest bots I've been around, so it's hard not to." To which Grimlock kind of rolls his eyes and like, "Yeah, that's me." And this is where Override simply states that, defeating a planet leader is a big deal. You could probably take over, make the planet a better place if you want. To which Grimlock simply states, it's not really his thing. He's fine just leading this team of misfits as it is. And he introduces them to, as well, Snarl the Stegosaur and Sludge the Apatosaurus, obviously being new members of his team. However, this is where everything kind of just unfolds, where they do make their way to the Scourge's temple, where all the Decepticons are waiting, with Optimus obviously accusing Megatron of trying to delay them, with Megatron obviously looking confused, like, what do you mean? I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what the... I have no idea what you're talking about on this one. And, well, this is where Grimlock and Scourge simply say, alright, enough of all this yapping. Let's get to scrapping. So Grimlock and Scourge both take out their respective weapons. Scourge's axe is at the ready, and, well, Grimlock's sword and shield is at the ready as well. So both of them charge at each other, obviously, when the, backstop says begin, and they pretty much clash head on. Blade against axe, warrior to warrior, in a way of primal, I guess you could say primal fury, or at least in the code of Jungle Planet, if you will. They both display their mastery of their weaponry and skill. And this is where Override simply states, so who do you think is going to win? To which Jetfire says, yeah, Grimlock's got this. To which this is where Red Alert says, really? But by my estimation, they both seem equal. To which this is where Slug also interjects and also states that, well, that's what they want you to believe. You see, Grimlock's actually pushing him back. Look slowly. Watch their feet. Watch how they move. And this is where everyone begins to pay attention to the fight a bit more, I guess you could say, nitpicky than what they were before. They notice how Scourge's footing is getting looser and looser with each step, how he's actually being overwhelmed. And so when they actually start noticing the fight from a more warrior-like perspective, this is where they see Grimlock picking Scourge off piece by piece, or at least, picking at him like, one step at a time. He begins to dismantle Scourge's grip on his weapon, making him lose his grip on it a little bit, and then he begins to trip up Scourge, causing him to stumble back. And this is where Grimlock, seizing the opportunity, then lunges at Scourge with a whole shield bash, and then pressing his foot on his chest mid-air, drops him into the ground with his blade at his throat, telling him he's been beaten. However, Scourge says never and activates his Cyber Planet key and, well, tries to blast Grimlock at that kind of, at point-blank range. However, Grimlock simply jumps back and transforms into his Tyrannosaurus form, while Scourge goes into his dragon form. And this is where they get into a lock of, or at least a dance of beasts. Back and forth, slash for tail whip, bite for bite. Everything is now coming down to this, with the Autobots and the humans both kind of at the edge of their seat, wondering who's going to win this one, right? And this is where Grimlock decides to activate his Cyber Planet key, but he does something a little slick. You know how Neck Crusher works in Dinosaur King? Yeah, he does that. So what he does is he activates his Cyber Planet key, but he rushes at Scourge. And Scourge simply uses this moment to unleash all three heads and utilize, his full totality of his fire breath. However, Grimlock is still kind of holding back that Fire Scorcher and is actually utilizing the heat to shield him so that he gets underneath Scourge, lifts him into the air, and as Scourge comes down, he tail whips him back up, sending him further into the air, and then launching this more powerful Fire Scorcher, because he's held it in for so long that the energies just build up. So that means when Scourge simply comes into contact with it, it detonates like a whole bubble bomb and just consumes Scourge and everything. Like the whole planet is illuminated in this light, and we even see the clouds disperse from the impact of this power, and Scourge drops unconscious, not dead, but unconscious and defeated, with even Underbite and Pterosaur both bringing the key to Grimlock and ultimately kneeling before him, saying that he's bested their leader. He has the option to lead. And Grimlock, while at first not wanting this, he turns back to the others And Optimus says, hey, it's your choice. You could make a difference here. And this is where Grimlock takes the offer and takes the deal to lead Jungle Planet into a much better and much brighter future. And that's where we're going to leave it off here, you guys. What's going to happen next? Now, I am going to take my own twist of everything from this point on. I kind of just wanted to get the whole Jungle Planet establishment out the way. And this is where I am going to be a lot more creative with the story. I'm going to have, you know, Starscream's arc be a little bit differently. I'm going to have Megatron becoming Galvatron a bit differently. And them getting the remaining, you know, 2 Cyber Planet keys are also going to be different in this one. So be sure to comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day. Peace.